what's good is that the hangover hasn't set in yet. So.
Sure, why not?
Hi! Oh, I'm sitting on my tail.
Just thankful I wore pants.
And I didn't.
Happy Halloween, you guys! Hi, you guys. So glad you guys are up this morning. That's amazing.
Can you hear us? We don't need mics, do we?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. You feel like me this morning. Yeah, I can hear you.
It's not yet. It's Sunday somewhere.
It is Sunday somewhere. It's Japan, I think.
So introduce yourself, my fine lady.
Hi, I am Stitch. I was created on another planet, and I'm an experiment. 91620. No, 626. I'm experiment 626. That's who I am, and I'm sticking to it. You, who are you?
Hi, I'm Cowboy Hat Man. No, this is a Cowgirl Hat Man.
Cowgirl hat.
This is a prelude to what's going to be happening at the Cowboy Bebop panel. Just you wait. Oh my.
Steve will quickly turn into a hentai villain. And you think I'm kidding, but remember what I said when you see his costume.
I didn't even think of it that way. No, I didn't. So, good morning, everybody. It's still morning, right? Does anybody in the room not know who we are and just wandered in here because you need sleep? Okay. So, we're here to answer all of your burning questions.
Yes.
Feel free to just stand up and fire away. Oh, look, already waiting.
Oh yeah, I got a Wolverine question for you.
Yeah, bud.
So you know the first time we see him in the comics, right? He's squaring off against the Hulk.
Yeah.
And you know he has this berserker rage. Don't you figure at some point common sense has to take over because the Hulk is like a million times stronger than him, has a healing factor equal to or better than his own. And each time he cuts him, you know, he just heals back up again.
Yeah.
But voice the comics.
He does draw them.
But to his credit though, when he squares off against the Hulk, that's the first time he's ever bled. So that's got to be like a big boost to his ego right there.
True. That's true. And all I have to say are two things. Common sense. Wolverine. Especially in Berserker Rage.
Oh, and X-23. Don't you think of her more Wolverine's daughter? Because you know she was born, she wasn't created. So she's a daughter.
Still hot.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
I was recently watching the special features on the Cowboy Bebop Blu-ray.
Yes,
And
you saw my backyard.
you all were discussing how things were discussing.
Oh, sorry.
I started more articulate than this usually. How things were much different when you all were recording Cowboy Bebop and you were directing voice actors, that you had more time to kind of redo scenes or go back and look over them and think maybe we could do this differently. And I was just curious how things have changed since then, and if you think it's been at all for the better or for the worse, or if you think it's about the same as far as quality.
Well, I think what we had, the luxury we had on Cowboy Bebop was time and money. We had 2 weeks to do 3 episodes. We did 3 episodes at a time. Mark would take 2 weeks to write them, and then we would go in the booth and we would record them in a week and a half, and then I had 3 days to sit with my engineer and go over every episode. But during the time of recording, I would often, and tell me if I'm wrong there, but I think, so none of this actually happened. No, but we had the time to actually go back and we would review scenes. You know, whoever came in first, we would go through it, and usually it was when the scene was complete, I would say, all right, let's watch the scene back. And what's your feedback? Do you want to change anything? I'd like to change this, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't happen. It's very rare that that's the case, unless it's original animation and the company is putting a lot of money behind and tweaking and everything else. But for anime, that never happens. The shows I do now, Naruto, a lot of the time it's just record whatever actor's there, and sometimes we'll have time to look over it, but mostly it's just send it off to the mix. I never see the episode before it goes to mix, and it's out there. So it's, at the time, it was really time and money. It was a huge benefit for that. So sometimes that's all you need for really good quality, is just a little extra time. That's it. A couple extra days in the studio, it makes a lot of difference.
Cool. It's right here. We'll get to you.
Now, before I ask this first one, I don't know if you ever got to work with Andre or
Steve's working.
Okay, but this first one's for Steve. All your time when you actually got to work with Andre for like a few projects.
Yes. Andrea is amazing, actually. She's one of my favorite directors in the world. She trained so many of the great directors from the Hanna-Barbera days and Warner Brothers. She was kind of a bucket list director besides this one. Sorry, Jesus, pretend no, she's wonderful to work with. She's super smart and high speed, knows exactly what she wants. And I love that in a director. The worst thing that can happen in a studio is if you're working with a director who has no idea what they want for the project, and she holds this vision, like Mary does. That's a sign of a great director, where they know the story arc, they know where things are going, they hold the entire vision, because when we go in, we know our little piece of it, and that's it. And so when you go in with a director with that kind of vision, you just bing, bang, boom, knows exactly what they want. It goes quickly, it goes beautifully. And working on something like Legend of Korra with her was achievement unlocked. And it was an amazing thing, And it took me 10 years, I think, of submitting auditions before I finally got in front of her to be able to truly audition for her. And so it was like a little fanboy dream.
Second one, now let's say I make a little black project that's low budget, or very low budget and no budget, and I decide to scout out for a specific person for this one. That's an actual working voice actor, say McGlynn or AUSA. Would it be possible for me to get them on board for something long distance, even though I don't have time for this?
Anything's possible. Just be a question of reaching out.
Yeah, AUSA does everything for free, so I would call him. I'll give you his number.
You don't even know, but I definitely would get him if I find something.
Yeah, it depends on the project. It depends on the actor and how busy we are.
Yeah.
If it's just a little.
And if you approach them in a professional way, is the thing, because there are a lot of
Chris Neosi says that in his curveball. Having a professional attitude is key.
Yes.
Approaching somebody who is a professional.
Yeah, because I've helped out a lot of projects, people that have just contacted me on Facebook, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. That's how I got actually involved in, there's a new game, Colot, that came out, and I sang the song for that, and I was contacted through Facebook, actually, and I said, well, here's my agent, and all of a sudden it became a professional situation, as opposed to, I've got a song, I want you to sing it, If you approach someone in a professional way and contact their agent and everything else, and I think that there's always a possibility. You never know.
And there is Skype for working with them long distance if you don't live in
Yeah,
the same area.
Skype.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I would add to that is just make sure your project is ready for that. Because there have been many times where people have approached me and they said, well, I've got this thing, and they send stuff to me, and it's like half done. The characters aren't really developed.
Mostly the script's got to be done first before you get asked.
Absolutely, yeah.
You
Okay.
gotta go to the guy in the back.
All the way in the back, yes.
This question's for Steve.
Yes.
What was it like?
Go to the guy next to you.
Better luck next year then. The bird.
That's my woman!
Steve, what was it like putting the mantle on for one of the greatest Decepticons for Transformers Prime? And of course, I'm talking about voicing Starscream.
Yes.
Because that was one fantastic role. And I saw a YouTube clip some time ago where you were saying, I have a new role for Transformers, and it's nothing you've ever heard before. You know, kind of did the Starscream voice, everyone lost their mind.
Yeah.
So what was it like up until the end of that show?
Putting on the mantle was fine. Putting on the heels hurt like hell. It was one of the most amazing projects I've ever worked on. Standing next to Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, my fanboy squee just went off. I practically wet myself every time Peter's standing there and he says, "Roll loud." Everybody in the room just kind of goes, "Oh, it's my turn at the mic," and we had to be professional. It was amazing working with Darren Norris, who's one of my favorite people in the world. And I'm trying to deliver one of the very few Starscream lines where it's heartfelt and, you know, he's actually sincere for a moment. Darren is standing next to me with 2 pieces of string cheese hanging out of his nose, wagging. Kevin Michael Richards, everybody in that room, it was amazing. We laughed so hard. The shenanigans in that room were ridiculous. It's amazing we got anything recorded at all. And you know, it's Transformers.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that it was Transformers was an incredible thing to begin with. Everything else was great. So yeah, I can't even articulate it. All right, you, and then we'll circle around there.
Okay.
What was the most, what particular roles were very difficult for you two to play? What were the most difficult roles?
Difficult roles.
Guillermo?
It was easy.
Gilman's amazing.
Emma was really fun.
It's the best.
That's the way I talk at home.
I think the ones that are actually, in terms of, none are too hard emotionally to play, because that's sort of our job as actors. When we are acting, it's like, that's usually the stuff that's the most fun, is to play the most challenging roles in terms of, if they're a stretch, if you've really got to dig in emotionally and everything else, that's fun. I think the hardest roles to play are the ones that are difficult vocally.
That's the one I'm referring to.
So, like Echidna in Devil May Cry 4, or thanks, Mom! The Zombie Queen that I did in some Resident Evil game. That was just, it took me a month to, thank you. Yes, thank you, Umbrella Corp. It took me a month to recover from that. And Liam O'Brien was directing, and I thought, well, I don't have any concerts coming up. I'm just mostly directing these days, so I'm gonna blow it out and just see what I can do. So I did the D. Baker, let me see if I can play my face like a flute. And I blew it out for a month. It took a month to recover. But it was fun, and I made sounds I never thought I could make.
That's what I was referring to. Does that take a toll on your vocal cords?
It does. You've got to be really careful. It's your instrument. It's like leaving a cello out in the rain. It's just, you've got to be really, really careful. Because you blow it out, and you're done. You're done. You can't go buy a new cello. It's just like you've got to take care of your instruments. It's like if you're an athlete, you got to take care of your body. You know, I mean, that's what we use. So.
Yeah, for me it's probably Wolverine, the most stressful one that I can remember was working on Hulk Versus on the movie, and just screaming my guts out. Wolverine, when he speaks like this, actually feels good on the throat. But when he's going like this in a berserker rage, and you're doing that for hours at a time, and I'm fighting with Fred Tatasciore next to me, and we are literally swinging at the mic. I came home from that session. I felt like the Hulk had been pummeling me all day. It was brutal, and for those of you who do physical acting, it's very much the same. And even if you're just in front of a microphone, especially when you're doing characters like that, it feels like your whole body has been through it. You're engaging every single muscle that you would if you were in that fight, psychologically and sometimes physically. And if you're just doing it psychologically, you can feel it. It manifests in the body. So not only does the throat go bad, my lungs hurt, my chest hurt, my body hurts after that. So sessions like that, it takes me several days to recover, sometimes a month to fully recover. And it breaks down the immune system too. So if you start doing that kind of work, make sure that you get lots of sleep, drink lots of water, all the things that you would do if you're coming down with some sort of bug. So.
Excellent, excellent. It's a question for both of you. As actors, when you receive a role and you don't have a lot of information about the role, what do you ask in those 5 minutes when they're like, hey, here's a character, you're gonna play in 5 minutes? Yeah, how do you approach that?
I say, please tell me something about the character. I rely on her so heavily for that sort of thing.
Yeah, we always do. You have to rely on your director. But sometimes you definitely go in and they're like, we don't know.
Yeah.
So you just have to, it's a reckless abandon that you approach this job with, and you just say, okay, I'm gonna let my ego and the monkey on my back that says I can't do it go for the moment and just play and see what happens. And if they don't like it, don't take it personally. It's just like, all right, well, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. So it's a lot of just sort of trusting in yourself and not getting in your own way, and then you just kind of play. But I really rely on directors like more than anything else to give us an idea, give an idea of. Steve just did an episode of Pen Zero, and he came in, and it's this crazy episode that is actually anime based. You're gonna hate me for it because it's sort of bad anime, but because we've all seen it. Come on now, we've all seen it.
Loving tribute.
Yes, it's a loving tribute. But we didn't know what we wanted when he came in. He played this one character that we just didn't know, and Sam Levine was like, I don't know, what do you got? Let's throw something out and we'll discover it together. And at that point it becomes, what's really good about that is that it becomes this collective creative process, which is great, as long as everybody on this side of the glass is open to playing and having fun, which I think most of the time they are.
They are. Yeah, it depends though. There are some projects where the character is already drawn, it's already fleshed out. We know an age, we know a body type, we know a dialect that they're looking for, that sort of thing. So those are questions that I would ask if that is in place. Otherwise, I'll say, what does the character look like? And they don't know yet, they'll show me something like that. And they'll say, okay, go. And I'll say, how old? Is it human? So, I mean, just the normal questions that you need just to sort of encapsulate what is this thing? Is it some amorphous blob that you're going to be bringing to life, or does it actually have some form that you had in your mind? And for established characters like Starscream or Wolverine, or things that have been done before, we have a pretty good idea of what those characters are going to be, and then we can go from there. But certain things like this, where it's start from scratch, anybody's guess.
Yeah.
And sometimes we work completely against what the model type is for the character too. I just did a character for a film that was very small. The character was maybe 12 inches tall, but it had a big freaking voice like this. So you never know. You never know. And that was just something I threw out there, and they went, oh, yeah, I like that, go. Okay, you pick me. Next victim.
Let's front row.
We'll get back to this.
So recently, Mary Elizabeth played Zara in Critical Role.
Yay!
If
you guys aren't watching Critical Role on Thursday nights, you've got to do it. It's the top voice actors playing D&D online. Now, some of you may say, D&D, nerd. First of all, we're all nerds. If you're here, you're a nerd. Who stay 100% committed in character, and they're improvising Lord of the Rings, basically, or Evil Dead, or whatever. It's amazing improv, unbelievable storytelling. Matt Mercer is a genius DM. It's amazing. So check it out. Thursday night, Critical Role on Twitch, Meek and Sunday. Anyway, what's your question?
There's no real way to ask this question without getting your answers mixed up. Steve, if you guessed a Critical Role, what would you play, and what class and what race? And then Mary Elizabeth, what would you have?
Well, here's the thing. Will Friedle was also a guest, but they did 2 weeks of a month of guests. It was Felicia Day and I for 2 weeks, and then it was Will Wheaton and Will Friedle for 2 weeks. So Will and I caught the bug bad. Like, let's just say really bad. I'm still collecting dice, and I haven't played since then, which is so we're actually going to do an offshoot with us, not on So it's just for us at home, and who knows what could happen.
We
with
might
it.
film it.
But it's, at this point, should we even say? That's fine, right?
Sure.
Sure, it's just us, it's a home game. But Matt is going to DM, and it's going to be Will Friedle, John DiMaggio, Steve, myself, and a couple other guys, and it should be really fun.
Yeah, and I haven't chosen my character yet, but I have experience as a drunken dwarf in a certain video game. So I'm thinking, since I've already farted lullabies, I might go in that direction. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can inspire people to fart.
Farting, yes.
Scanlan certainly does through a lot of poop. Have there ever been like dwarf, can you do like, are there dwarf like spellcasters? Or is there, so what would that be, like a dwarf?
Claire.
Any classes, yeah.
There's no, so, oh, that's awesome. Oh, I got a dwarf player.
Really?
See, so you can dwarf, he said, I want to fight, but I also want to spell.
I could sorcerize?
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
So hopefully, in the corner.
Yes, this question is for Steve.
Yes.
For Transformers Rise of the Darkspark, how was it on your vocal cord switching back from Sharp Shot and Shockwave from "Fuck the scrap for slap" to a hologram recording? We
Just
should
like you did just then. It's like, that was really good.
Also, I found this a bit of a coincidence. When I saw Cowboy Bebop the movie, I saw, you voicing Spike, facing down Vincent for the fate of Mars, and then I saw Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, I saw you voicing another Vincent. I just thought it was a coincidence. Do you have anything to say?
I had nothing to do with that. Yeah, that was actually a pretty cool coincidence. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just a voice monkey, dude. Long before I even got in the booth.
Thank you, Mr. Blum. You're the reason I do my impressions.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Keep it up. That hand wagging right there. Yes.
Okay. Good luck. Remember that Naruto character Orochimaru?
Oh.
The snake guy.
He's the guy with.
Did I take your body?
Like he's one of the biggest villains in Naruto.
Yes.
Yeah, sure is.
Yes.
Orochimaru was great, and when we were casting it, a lot of people auditioned for that role, but I knew immediately. I was like, "This is Steve."
Funny that you think of me that way.
And I also think of you as Gilman. I knew we had actually cast another actor as Gilman, and we recorded the first episode. It spent like a 4-hour session, and I knew it wasn't right. And I said, "This is Steve. It's got to be Steve."
All right, thanks, Marymount.
Did you have a question? No? Okay.
No? Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Out of all the characters you've voiced over the years in anime, which ones would you say were your favorites?
It's hard. How do you choose favorites? I mean, it's really like members of my family. It's like choosing, which child do you drop off the cliff? If you had to choose,
There are a lot of really good.
I love them all equally. Yeah.
True.
I mean, some, in my case, some were, more iconic than others. Spike became one of the biggest benchmarks of my life and my career in so many different ways. But I love them all. Even Vic Mignogna talks about Soldier A in his song. You guys heard Soldier A? Where sometimes you get hired to do these little tiny bit parts, and you might have 5 seconds of screen time, then you die. But in that moment, that's the most important thing in my life. So that is my favorite thing because I'm working on it. You have to put 100% of your attention on that at that moment. So for me, it's whatever I'm working on that day in that moment. I have to live in the present.
Nice.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I got a question and a backup question.
Yes.
Just in case you can't answer. So the second one is for both of you, but this one's for Steve. Anyway, so have you seen the death battle between Wolverine and Raiden?
Have I seen it?
Yeah. I recommend checking it out.
I will.
So I'll go with the second one. All right, so for both of you, which one? So if you were to get a character, but you already know the voice type, what would be the criteria for a deal-breaking character that you cannot do, if that exists?
At that point, if I can't do it, There's some roles I just can't play, like high, cute little thing. I can, no. So, but at some point it has to be like, oh, that was last night. I was very high. No. It would have to be content, I think. If something is like, hentai is a lot about rape and stuff, and I just don't want to do that. I don't want to. I get really sick of playing or being a part of things where it's like women are constantly having to be saved. That starts to tick me off after a while because I think women are doing it for themselves, but it's like sisters are. But after a while, it's just like, come on, can we have another? Can we get a different role model for young women today, or young men too? Like, why do we have to put out that? Like, so for me, it's sort of a content thing. That if the content is offensive, then I won't do it.
I can't do Sailor Moon's voice.
He can dress up like us.
I can rock those, what do they call them, tights? No.
Knee-highs.
The knee-highs thing.
Knee-highs.
Rock those knee-highs thing, I don't know. Can't have a voice that.
With the glasses, no. Do you have? No. Yes.
Cool.
Yes, Umbrella Corps.
Yeah, okay. So no love for Resident Evil. You know what you did. Of course, there's no love for Umbrella Corp anyway.
I know. Well, here's the thing. We do so many gigs, and most of the time.
I'm not judging you.
Okay. Let me defend myself. Is that we go in and they don't tell us the title of anything because they don't trust us. Smart. Hi, I'm on Twitter. I just voiced Stitch. It's like, it's a new show. Shut up. So a lot of the time we do stuff that we don't even know what it is.
Okay, my question is for my fellow Beat Boys over here, Mrs. Blum.
Yes, sir.
I've actually won the league since I was about 12 years old. So loud here.
But you have to shoot higher.
Aim higher, Matt.
Okay. How do you feel about the fact that you probably voiced 785 characters on Elvis Pulse Online?
Wow, I did not know that. Did not know.
It seems like every time I do a request, every NPC is you.
I'm trying to take over the world one at a time.
You're doing a great job with it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I don't count. It's a weird thing. I just work when they ask me to work, and I just say yes to almost everything.
I thought it was funny that you voice so many characters. It's like, that's Blum, that's Blum, that's Blum. Anybody else play this game?
It's either the most annoying thing in the world, or it's a great drinking game.
Don't make it past 5 minutes in the game.
You guys are for
As world travelers, both of you been in the business forever and have set standards, defied standards. Who amongst your peers, and there's a lot of them I know, but out of all of them, who surprised you the most as far as talent and those who stand out in voice acting wise nowadays?
Everyone, every day.
Yeah.
The day before we came, Thursday, I had a morning session where I directed Kari Waldron, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Dee Baker. And for this new show. And every day, these people surprise you. Every single day, somebody comes in, and because I directed Kari in Wolf's Rain 3,000 years ago when she was just starting out, and so to see how much she has grown, and every day she comes up and she'll come in the booth and do something different and new and surprising. I think that's what's amazing about this industry and about this specific job, is that as long as you can still talk, you can still surprise people with what you can come up with. So there's always that opportunity. So I would say everyone, every day.
Yeah.
On a side note, I talked to Cam Clark over at Awesome Comics.
Oh, I love Cam.
Loves you.
I love Cam so much.
Talk about surprising. Cam, I mean, he's been in the business longer than any of us, I think.
Yeah.
And doesn't look it. So, Cam, you look like a baby. All of your skin looks like baby butt. I worked with them years ago on a show called Zoo Patrol. And Cam... Space! And Cam played 3 of the major characters on that show. You would never know it's one person doing those roles.
Yeah.
Just an unbelievable range, and the comedy that came out of that guy from nothing, it was astonishing. And I'd known him for years.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest thing about working in these rooms with these actors. A lot of them are comedically trained or improv trained, and the whole purpose behind all that is to come up with something new every single time. And the greatest stuff never makes it to the final cut. In most cases, there's so much, like I was talking about the shenanigans in the room, unbelievable stuff, like pee your pants funny.
Yeah.
Every session, it's crazy. So the people, even from the people we've known the longest, and we think we know what their whole repertoire is, and all of a sudden they're going to pull something out. I mean, D. Baker pulls out new sounds every single day from his body that are not human. I'm not sure that all of them are coming from his mouth.
An episode of, just 2 weeks ago, D came in and on Pen Zero, and he does all of our monster voices. And there's a giant fire-breathing chicken in the most dangerous world imaginable. And at one point, he gets choked. So D said, I've been waiting my entire career to finally play choking the chicken. And that's what it sounded like.
It was perfect. How about you, Rick? Sure.
Okay, actually, I was like...
Oh, no, this guy up here, and then we'll get it.
Quick question about Cowboy Bebop. Question to both of you guys. When did you guys realize it was going to become a cult hit? Was it during the production, after, or years later?
Well, we recorded it in about a year after it started airing in Japan. So it was 1998, I think, or 1999. So it didn't even make it to the air here. Like as we were doing it, I just thought, my God, nobody's ever going to see this. So let's just make it amazing for us. So and then all of a sudden we found out, oh, it's going to the Cartoon Network. I think it went to Adult Swim, and we had to take out all the bad words. There weren't that many, to be honest. I don't think they edited much of it. But I remember going back in, and it was a couple years later, and he said, oh, this is going to TV, this is so exciting. And I just thought, man, I hope people like it as much as we do. So it was a couple of years later, and then it came out, and people changed my career, changed everything.
And I didn't really know how big it had become until many years later when I started doing the con circuit. And I heard that it was doing well, and we went to the movie premiere, and that went really well. It was a packed house, and everybody seemed to really be into it. But I really hadn't been doing the concert, and it wasn't until I really started getting out in the world and meeting you guys and hearing how it affected your lives. And some people would say that it brought them together as couples, or it got them through some horrible family illness. And I mean, tons of stories like that changed me on a cellular level. And that's when I really started listening to the stories that you guys come up with, and how it was such a big part of your childhood. And then the responsibility set in. I thought, oh, I should have worked even harder on this. Yeah, but it wasn't until many years later, and it's astonishing. 17 years later now, and we're doing a Bebop panel with a cast. It's amazing the life that this has had. And it's taken on an afterlife now, where it's going to a new generation. None of us could have predicted that, including the creator of the show.
No, but I do love that he loves her.
Yes, yeah, thankfully. Now fire away.
Okay, I got a chance to meet you yesterday at the autograph signing. It's like, both my questions are for you though, because both of them are kind of like, I hate unfinished stories being said. The first one, when you signed my copy of Boatstorm, which I absolutely loved. I know there was kind of like, it was like controversy when it came out, and then like a lot of it was like, well, the main part of it was basically they said that the main reason they put it out was to whet everybody's appetite for, the next Gears game, and I was so hooked on it. So I was just curious, like, what stopped them from making the second one?
I'm a voice monkey. I got no idea. I come in and I do words. Honestly, I'm not privy to any of those conversations at all. So it's usually a corporate decision somewhere down the line, or it's a rights decision. There's a lot of legal stuff that happens behind the scenes. I don't know. I really don't know.
And my other question was, that being said, if Marvel was here, because he'd be like totally agree with me. Wolverine X-Men, first off, loved it. That being said, why just leave us with the image of Apocalypse blowing up for anybody and we don't know how it ended? I would love to see that fight.
Well, that one I do have an answer for. They actually had 9 more episodes written for that show. And we were all on board, ready to go. But it was an offshore company that financed it. And from my understanding, they were like a real estate firm or something in England and co-financed by a company in India. And they hold the rights to it. They actually licensed the rights from Marvel for that show. And when they found out that they had to pay residuals on it, they decided to file bankruptcy and not do entertainment anymore. And they took the rights with them. And so that's stuck in some legal limbo now. And now that Disney owns Marvel, they're going to want to do their own version of it. So I don't know if it'll ever come to pass. And all of us were heartbroken because it was one of my favorite incarnations of X-Men, whether I was on it or not.
Yeah, I was sitting there just waiting for them. I was just like, yes, we're gonna go up against Apocalypse. We're gonna have the next and then just.
All of us had that opinion. You know. Thanks for asking.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Have you ever, Paper, for coming out today, I really enjoyed you, Mary, in Abigail as Abigail Brand. I'm currently watching Avengers.
Oh, awesome, thanks.
And I'm currently playing Arkham, so you see your voice pops up, as well as Lego Marvel. That being said, have you ever had the chance to meet your counterparts, whether they be Japanese or not?
I met Wolverine once.
Yeah, but like, you know, like, have you had a chance to see Koichi Yamadera? Or,
I wish, actually. I've always wanted to meet the woman who played, and I'm sorry I don't know her name.
Maybe Gara Takashima, I think?
Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Motoko. I've always wanted to because I feel like I played a lot of her roles over the years. I felt like I was like, oh, I'm sort of vocally stalking you. Because I continue to sort of play the roles that she does, which is a huge, you know, it's just, yay, keep working, because then I can hopefully keep working. But no, I haven't. And I wish I had. I did get to meet Watanabe-san from Cowboy Bebop, and we had dinner together and shared sake and talked about the ending of Cowboy Bebop, and apparently he's changed his mind since we have spoken. The ending of that, which surprised me, but I think it's just sort of to leave it open to say, well, maybe. But at the time, it was a very definitive no. But yeah, I think that was my favorite thing, was actually getting to meet Toshihiro Watanabe. Toshihiro Kawamoto-san I got to meet as well, the character designer, who also did Wolf's Rain. And Tenkai Nights, this cute little show that Steve was actually on as well. So yeah, I love meeting the production team of shows I get to work with, but I've never met the voice actors.
Same thing for you, Steve?
Same for me, yeah. It's very rare that the only way that I meet most people is by coming to cons, including my friends from LA. We don't see each other, so we work separately, especially in anime and video games. We work separately, so there's very small chance that we get to see each other, and they don't bring us at the same time to conventions.
Have they ever brought you guys over to Japan?
No, I went over for the anime convention with the guys who hired us to do Cowboy Bebop. So I got to go to the Tokyo Anime Fair with them, and that's when I met Kawamoto-san, and we got to go over to Bones and see what they were doing over there, which was great, but never met the actors.
I didn't get invited. Headphones right there.
First of all, I want to say happy belated birthday to Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Very belated birthday to Mr. Blum as well. And speaking of birthdays, the voice actress for Goku, who's been doing the voice of Goku ever since the beginning and still is doing the voice, even in Super, and actually did voices in Master Boy. She just turned 79 on Sunday. So I'm just saying, since you are far from 79, how does that even measure in your head, knowing that there are voice actors going that far in their careers and their lives?
Yeah, Peter's 40. No, I don't know. Stan Lee is in his 90s. Still doing voiceover, still standing up at the mic while he's doing voiceover, where a lot of voice actors sit down and record.
He's actually still
still doing cameos in every production practically, and I've worked with him several times. To see a guy like that, or to see June Foray, some of these people have been around forever, and they are still just as vibrant, just as active. And they have these older person's bodies, but an 8-year-old inside. You can see that sparkle in their eye when they come up to the microphone. That's who I want to be. I'm never going to stop doing this. I hope to do it. I'm 78 now. I got a lot of good
Hi. I know that you are just voice one.
Oh, sorry.
you're the closest to the business I may get for a while. Do you know anything about Ghost in the Shell Innocence? I know that fans are sometimes purists, they don't want dubs, but your voices are definitive to me. What can I say?
I thought we did like 2 versions of Innocence, didn't we? I thought like one that Crispin Freeman directed and one that Richard Epcar directed. So there was like one for Europe and then there was one for the States. I think Crispin did the one for the States and then, am I right?
I look for Read the Region 1 periodically and I've never found it. I mean, I don't think it's been digitally released.
I've got a finished up copy at home.
Yeah, so I know it's definitely out there for Innocence.
Check the dealer room.
Seriously, it's in the dealer room, and they're 2 different versions, same cast, different directors, different script. So, and Innocence was the most confusing movie. I remember, like, you cannot stop the subtitles fast enough to be able, when Bato and Crispin's character went into that loop. Togusa, thank you, went into that loop, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm so glad I just came in at the end of that movie so I didn't even have to try and understand what was going on. It was such a cool, beautiful movie, but it was beyond my level of education.
I'm glad I asked. Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so check the dealer room. It's there. It's definitely there. Yeah.
I love the Toonami shirt, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
When you were initially cast as Tom, do you have any idea that was going to be as big as it ended up getting?
Oh no! I didn't even know Toonami was a thing before that, and I didn't know that Sonny Strait had voiced Tom before me. I still have never met him, but had I known that there was a Tom before me, I would have called him and asked if it was okay, because that's what we do in our community. We really take care of each other. So for me, they said, well, no, this is the direction we want to go. It's already set in stone. Just enjoy the ride and see what happens. Well, they actually brought me in because of Cowboy Bebop. The guys are huge anime fans and gaming fans, and they knew some of my work, and they brought me in and asked me if I'd be interested in hosting a show on Cartoon Network, and I went, yes! And so we met for beers, and it happened that quickly and that easily. And I started recording within weeks. And for me, it was just a really fun thing to do, and it was the biggest thing I'd ever done in my career at that time. So I thought that was the pinnacle of my career. I thought I'm never going to do anything bigger than this. Had I known that Toonami would become as big as it has, and then the resurgence of interest in Toonami after we went off the air for 4 years, and you guys brought it back. So thank you all. Together with Jason DeMarco and Gil Austin in San Diego Comic-Con this last year. And we did a panel, we did a live panel inside the Meat Wad booth. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's this inflatable Meat Wad thing. We did this live broadcast for Toonami Pre-Flight. And it was just amazing, the love that just outpoured from this after all these years. It was incredible. It's still humbling. I record it every week in my home studio, and I still get just as excited about it now as I did back then. And especially when we're doing the inspirational speeches. That's our favorite part, and we had no idea the effect it would have on people until we start doing these conventions and people start telling me their stories, and it's made me cry and laugh and changed me as a person too. So I can't say enough about how grateful I am for Toonami and for all of you who tune in too.
This is for McGlynn. I know that you played Connie's mom in Steven Universe, and I was just wondering what the experience was like with that.
Well, here's the thing. I never auditioned for that role. They're huge Ghost in the Shell fans. They hired Crispin Freeman and I to play, who plays Togusa, and Ghost, to play Connie's mom and dad. And I've never been recurring on an original animation before, so it was a huge honor to walk in, and they were just, they're very shy of moving things. Seriously? You know, it's an absolute honor, and it was really fun and terrifying for me, because I just, normally you audition, you earn the role, so you're just like, okay, so you're just hiring me? What if I disappoint you? There's all of a sudden, again, the big monkey, and it whispers evil things into your head that you just have to knock off and just go in and play. It was amazing. And I did a couple sessions by myself, but then I also did a couple sessions with the cast, and it was amazing. It was so much fun because I didn't know what the show was until I was on it, and then I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I see more and more cosplay now of Steven and Connie and all the, the jewels, yes, crystals and gems. It's like, it's amazing. And I love that it's a quirky show that has really struck a chord in people. So I'm honored to be a part of it.
Also, I just have another question. I don't know anything about Cowboy Bebop, but I do know a lot about Space Dandy, so can I ask both your opinions on that?
Space Dandy's fun. We love Ian.
Yeah, I've never seen the show, but
I've seen 2 episodes. I think I woke up, I had insomnia one night, and I turned on the TV, and an episode of Bebop was on, and then after that, Space Dandy. And I was like, all right, I got to check out Space Dandy. It's amazing. It's like if Spike Spiegel was played by Bruce Campbell. It's an amazing show. I absolutely loved it. I thought, wow, this is an amazing thing.
yeah, the actors are hysterical on that show. From what I've seen, it looks amazing. I have to take the time to watch it.
Great Bebop Easter eggs.
Yeah.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think
like the fridge with the
Toys in the Attic.
yeah.
So come today, we're actually doing a reading of Toys in the Attic today. The whole cast is there. We're going to be reading from the scripts, and at the end we'll sign the scripts, and I think we're going to put them in
They're going to be in for the charity
auction. So,
1:30 main events.
Yeah,
so
really
1:30
nice
main events, please come and come in costume.
Yeah.
I won't be in costume, like I'm not in costume. That's what I always wear when I direct. It's my directing suit. How are we doing on time?
We got about okay. How about you all the way in the corner?
This is for Mary. You said you follow Ghost. You've been following the Japanese voice actor of Ghost in the Shell. I was wondering if there was another series coming out anytime soon, or if there's one in the works.
I don't know. There's a movie coming out, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, I was invited to the premiere of that, and I was like, I don't think I was, but I think it's the Younger Arise cast, isn't it? Yeah, so I think Funimation did it. And I did just do another session as, what's her face? On Arise. I'm so sorry, I don't know my names of things that I do, it's terrible. And I thought it was for the series, but it might have been for the movie. So I don't know. But yeah, so the movie's coming out soon. Funimation is doing an awesome, amazing job with Arise, and it could not be in better hands. So I'm really happy with what they're doing, and I know some people are upset that it's not us doing it, but they changed the cast in Japan, and so the client said change the cast, and they did, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's
My next question is for Steve. I watched Exile from Paradise. I loved the movie. I was wondering if there was a series in the works, because they left it so that they could be a series, but they did end it so that all you had to do was watch the movie. I was wondering if there was a series in the works. Or
honestly, I have no idea.
You have no idea?
I have no idea. I still haven't seen it. They sent me a copy a few weeks ago, but I've been traveling so much I haven't even seen the thing. So I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that it came out well. I've heard some really good things about it, but we're not privy to any of that information. And even if we were, I wouldn't be able to say here because the chip in my neck would just explode. Glorious, multicolored cloud.
So when you guys come up with a new voice during an audition, and then you got to come back to it, how do you find it?
She plays it for me.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you audition for a job and you get the gig, unless they want to change the voice, they just love you and bring you in and say, so we're not going to play you the audition because we're going to change what you did. But almost every time, if you get a job because of an audition, they will play you the audition and say, this is what we want, or this is where we'd like to start. We just want to tweak it a little bit from here or a lot.
Or they'll say, this is what you did, do something completely different.
Yeah. I know it was Russian at first, but now it's going to be Australian.
Seriously, that happens all the time. There's things like a game that I did called Dead Island years ago.
Dead Island.
And I came in and I think it was originally going to be a Russian accent. Then they went with a Caribbean accent, which I had never done before. And I stayed up all night studying it. And I walked into the studio and they said, oh, by the way, we decided to go Australian. Go. All right then, let's do it. Yeah, and you gotta be prepared for anything. So you never know.
So even if, if you did a voice years ago, they'll still give you a little.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They have to, especially if
you can't remember all that.
No, and you do so many jobs and so many voices, and I mean, even if somebody came in the day before, I'll still play them a reference, just because within that day they might have gone and done 2 or 3 other gigs. So it's like, let's bring you. What it does is it just focuses you back into this world, whatever world we're in for that 2 hours or 4 hours. Let's focus in on this world and then send you back out, and you can go back out into the crazy world.
And that even happens on nonverbal roles too. Dee Baker and I did a movie called Box Trolls, and we were just doing these really weird vocalizations. And each time they brought us back into the studio, they would play what we did in the session before, just so we could at least get into that same voice print, and then we'd go nuts. And some of the characters would, but at least we had the language and we had the pacing, and especially if you're distinguishing one character from another, you need to know what that sounds like so you can make the other character different enough too. It's critical that you have that information.
There was a play called Who Am I This Time? That's basically, it's the life of an actor. So you go into it, it's like, all right, who am I? Who was I? Who am I? And it's just, I just need a focus. I need a focal point. All right, this is who I am today for this 2 hours. It's an instant, brings you back into where you need to be. Yeah.
On the Star Wars show, this one's for Steve. You played Zeb, right?
So I did, Zeb already.
Now, he's an interesting character, because I don't think we've really seen anything like him in the Star Wars universe. So what was it like prepping for his voice? Did you have to go through a lot of iterations to get it right, or was it like you knew what he was like the first time?
Well, Zeb was a really interesting character for me because I didn't know it was Star Wars at first. It was codenamed Wolf, and I had no idea what it was. And they said things about troopers, which you see in lots of different scripts, but I didn't know he was this ape-like creature, and that's pretty much the only description he had. He even had a different name in the script. They didn't even tell me what his name was. So I just went based on what the description was for the first 2 or 3 auditions. And then when I booked the role, I was actually in England for a Transformers convention, and I had to find a studio to record in the middle of nowhere in this guy's house. And I got up into the studio, and it wasn't until then that it really clicked in that this was Star Wars. And they had actually mentioned it to me in the final callback audition, but it still didn't register because I did lots of Star Wars games and things, and I didn't think this is going to be a Star Wars series. I didn't know it was going to be as big as it is. But I'm in England late at night in this guy's studio, burning up. He had no air conditioning. I'm standing there sweating, and they hand me the script. And I'm looking at it, and it says, Stormtroopers. And the engineer had the same reaction. He was, oh my God, this is And so we started fine-tuning it. And the final callback, we were playing with the dialects. And we did lots of different dialects. We did Russian for him. We did German. We did a German sort of interpretation. We did all sorts of different English things. I thought we were going to land on a full coordinator thing now, where you just couldn't understand half the words that were coming out. So what it became was an amalgamation of some English dialect and some Australian little pieces of things that I just had floating in my head, and basically came out like a bad English accent. But the character was so well defined. They had this character, Dave Filoni and his team, Lucas had this character defined for years before I even stepped into it. So they knew what they wanted, and it was just a matter of refining it. And it was actually based on a Ralph McGlynn design for the original movies. So when they had that scene about him being a hairless Wookiee, that was actually a nod to the original incarnation. There's actually an action figure of Chewbacca that looked just like that, but a different color. So it's kind of cool, and it's great to be able to introduce a new race to the Star Wars universe. Now it's part of the canon, so it's a big responsibility that I don't take lightly. So I'm so lucky to get to work on that. Yep. You've had your hand up for a very long time. Yes. Me? Yes.
Oh,
no, I'm sorry.
All right, I
want to thank you because you played a lot of my favorite minor characters, so thank you for doing some of the roles you do, like Toto and Code Geass or Kagoda and Durara. I love all the work you do. You do a voice in Dragon Age Origins. There's a guy in the market, and he says Dwarven crafts straight from Orzammar. Is there any chance I could do a recording of that?
I don't remember what the voice sounded like though. I don't know. It's one of those things where I was concentrating on Nagra and I don't remember. They threw that one at me.
Did you do it on Nagra?
Yeah.
Next question.
Right, ready?
Yeah.
Misery, vomit, malt liquor. That reminds me of nut humpers.
Nut humpers.
We call lots of people nuts. Yes. You don't know my work.
Okay, we have time for how many questions? One more question. Okay.
So basically, with the also.
Two more questions because we didn't get to your question. I'm so sorry.
So, surprise, surprise, hypothetical Star Wars question for the guy who's like not Jedi. So, for both of you, if you could choose for you another character, but for you, any character in Star Wars canon, what would it be if you could voice act?
Wow. Chocolate so I could kill myself.
Again, maybe Obi-Wan. That'd be pretty fun. Yeah, but how can you do any better than what's been done before? The casting has been so good. I can't even think about a character other than my own. I get to play lots of different characters in the show, so I've been doing Stormtroopers forever, so that's always a fun one because I like getting blown up.
What's the thing that eats Boba Fett?
Sarlacc.
Done. One last question because we didn't get to.
Me?
Yes.
My question is about Naruto. I see that you direct a lot of episodes of it, 500 plus. So what was your thoughts and feelings of directing the last Naruto movie?
Oh, the movie was so good. It was so much
Yeah,
fun.
that's
I was
fun.
a real hesitant Naruto Hinata coupling thing.
Yes.
I was hesitant at first. I was like, no, he's supposed to be with Sakura. That movie changed my mind completely, and I thought, and Miley did such an amazing job, and we actually, and Miley had to do it twice because we lost an entire day of recording. So we had to go back and shoot that moment where he basically tells her that he loves her, and it broke my heart that we had to go back and do that. But it was also wonderful to go back and do that. So Miley was amazing, Stephanie Shea was fantastic, and Robbie Damon was awesome. So I'm really glad because a lot of times in anime you'll get a villain that's very sort of androgynous and light, and I wanted to give him a little more ground him a little more than this sort of floaty character. So I thought Robbie really did that beautifully. Made him a more masculine, less floaty character. So I was thrilled. I hope you guys like it.
I really enjoyed it, especially with the
yeah, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. All right, well, come to our